Welcome to my vlog. I'm Jason, and this is my yoga teacher training odyssey, where I vlog a little bit before and after every class. Today's day 5, day 5 video 1, and it's Wednesday. And I wanted the ambient sounds of the raindrops pattering on leaves and birds chirping, but I keep getting traffic instead, so what can you do? The focus of today's video is how to teach. A very small subject, I'm sure. How do you get feedback when you're in the front of the class, and what are your tools for teaching? And you used to be able to teach with your voice, right? You tell people, hey, do this thing, get into this shape. And then if they were having some difficulty, you would be able to show them. You could go and stand next to them and show them, right? But, you know, let's go back a step. Before even showing them, you could walk around the room and you could see everybody from different angles and make sure hips and their alignment is appropriate for what they're trying to achieve based on the moves you're telling them. And there are some assumptions that you're making, and you have to be careful about that. You always have to be careful when you're making assumptions. You can't, and then so disconnected. It's really not. It's not this disconnected in my head. So you can walk about the room and then give individual instruction, and if that's not working, you can actually strike a pose right there next to a person and try to show them by standing in the same direction they are, in the same facing they are, give them more context, and maybe they can adjust their stance. And then finally, if it's a hands-on class, you can get consent, and then you can actually, you know, put your hands on them and say, twist this way, you want to put this way, whatever. Ideally, you want to do as little correction as possible because you want people to be able to find their own path. Most notably, you want to do corrections when somebody's in imminent danger of hurting themselves, or they might not be in imminent danger at this second, but if they keep doing what they're doing, they're going to have long-term injuries. So you're always trying to watch the class for their overall health. Is anybody huffing and puffing too much? If maybe more than one person is huffing and puffing, maybe it's time for a child's pose. And you also want to watch for short-term and long-term injuries. And you need affirmative feedback. Feedback that is something that you can rely on. You might cue a pose and they don't do the pose right. And you need to know, are they doing the pose wrong because they misunderstood you? They didn't hear you? They don't understand? They're physically incapable from injury? Or they're lazy? Every single one of those reasons is something that's legitimate, and some of them can be addressed. And you, as the teacher, have to find the data that is accurate, actionable, truth. For example, if you think somebody's just being lazy, let them be lazy. It's their mat. It's their class time. If they want to come in and they just want to lay in corpse pose the whole class, then that's what they do. And then there are data points that stack. Let's say you have a student that comes in on your Wednesday. Every Wednesday, like clockwork, they're always there, and they're always doing all of the poses beautifully. And then today, they're knees down in every high plank. It's safe to derive or infer from that behavior that they're not feeling high plank today, for whatever reason. And it doesn't matter the reason. They're just not feeling it, and they're not doing it, and that's their choice. But on the other side of that coin, let's say you have a student who you see, and every time you see them, they're struggling with high plank, and they're not putting their knees down. Have you cued the alternate position correctly in a accessible way? And depending on the type of yoga class you're teaching, it depends on whether or not certain other aspects come into play. Power yoga in particular is a very physical centric environment. You're there to sweat and move. And within that environment, the ego might show up a little bit more than in a different kind of flow, because you want to, people like to feel competent and powerful and capable. It took me a long time to start striking alternate positions because I didn't want to take the easy way out. But that's when you get some crossover. Now I'm going to student view a little bit with the minimum effective dose. How much do you have to move today to get the desired effect you're looking for? But coming back to teaching and teaching techniques, it's possible that they heard you and misunderstood, in which case you can give some extra direction. And because of the COVIDs coming to town, you can't go walk it amongst the people anymore. You can't walk it amongst the students. Oh, that's fantastic. You can't walk it amongst the students and cue next to them or do a pose next to them. So it's going to be more important than ever that you figure out your own cues accurately. The significance of these thoughts, in particular, for the rest of my life, that sounds odd, for other areas, other facets of my life, is teaching is, in its simplest form, communicating. And it's not difficult to take this notion of, what's it called? I wrote it down. Formative assessment. That's a term that my wife told me that she learned when she was going through school to become a better teacher. It was like a 6-month course. And it was conceptualizing these sorts of active teaching terms. Formative assessment is, you tell the kid to write their names on the paper, and if they don't write their names on the paper, either they didn't hear you, they misunderstood, or you didn't say it right, or maybe they're incapable, or maybe they're lazy. And in that particular environment, those cues require different alternative courses of action from the teacher. The formative assessment can be applied to every single thing you do. Just like most concepts I'm learning in yoga, I'm able to apply formative assessment to how I communicate with other people, and it's great. It's eye-opening. We all like to think that we are the center of our universe, and for the most part, we are the center of our universe. And sometimes that gravity well shifts, right? Sometimes some kind of major problem becomes the center of your universe. But for the most part, we all look at everything from within going out, and the fact of the matter is, it's just not that simple. It's our responsibility to actively engage with something like formative assessment when we communicate with people, because we want to be sure that we're being heard and that they're hearing us. And it also allows for us to make sure that we're hearing them, because sometimes what we hear isn't what they're saying. I have to go. I have to go to class. This is only month 1. I have 6 more months of this. I don't know how much my mind can handle. Okay, that's not true. It can handle a lot. Thanks for watching. Take care.